Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Week in Horror Podcast Front Row series, where we sit down with the amazing industry talents who constantly shed their blood to ensure that this horror genre will always be the greatest genre of them all. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest who has been so kind to take a little time out of his crazy busy schedule to hang with us here on the show. For 25 years now, he has been kicking ass and taking names both in front of and behind the camera, and he has brought us some truly creepy characters to life just so that they can haunt our dreams. Everyone give a warm Week in Horror welcome to the phenomenally talented Chaney Morrow. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you for the intro.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So I've actually been following you on Facebook. I think we've actually been connected on Facebook for some time, and I see your updates occasionally like that. I follow a lot of fellow actors because I got my start in Dallas when I officially went to film school, and I went to the KD Conservatory. But you're an Ohio native, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so in Dayton, just to make sure I'm glad.
Yeah,
Dayton, Ohio, which is awesome because I know we have another friend of the channel, Matthew Mark Hunter, who is native to the breadbasket, and he's been on the show a few times. Really good dude. He built it up. He started off with like doing his own Sam Raimi style stuff, puppets, low budget, almost no budget kind of stuff. Now he works for Troma. So Troma and Full Moon, which is kind of cool. But coming out of Ohio now, like I said there in the intro, you kicked off early now because your career as an actor started off young, like 1999 is the earliest you find with The Dreamcatcher, not a horror film, but saw that one. But out of Ohio, because a lot of people that listen to us in the major metropolitan areas, and they have access to like various schools like Laugh and and NIFA and like me from Texas, who got to go to KD and a number of other Chicago and Florida. But out of Ohio, how did you swing that? What was that those early steps into that first film?
Well, I remember I was in maybe 7th grade, 6th, 7th grade, I reckon. I think it was shot, probably in 98. I remember it was, we would look in the newspaper every week. There was the city paper is what it was called. Actually, I think it was called the Impact Weekly at the time. But my dad would peruse, and they'd post up auditions there, and that's how I got to start in theater. And I'd done theater there professionally for a little while as a kid, but this audition came through for a independent film, and they told me to, I remember memorize a monologue and all kinds of stuff. And I remember my dad helped me pick one out. I was a rube at the time. I figured, I'll memorize a monologue. Oh, well, how about one from a movie? Which now, it's always best to do a theater monologue, not a film monologue. And it was an old school movie too. I believe it was Dennis Quaid's monologue in Breaking Away.
Nice.
Yeah. So I had all this down. When I get there, it's the audition did not have to do that. It was he just put me in a scenario to see how I would react. Left, and I think a week or two later got the call, and I was going to be the paper boy in the movie. And the bit was pretty cool. I guess the two lead guys beat the shit out of some dude and steal his car. And while they're doing so, a paper boy appears, and he's witnessing the whole thing. So they chase after this paper boy for a little bit till they eventually give up. Paperboy gets away. Did that a couple times. This little pudgy 6th, 7th grader. I was winded as hell doing all that running. But we went and see the movie. Once it goes on tour, it was successful. It was like it did well. It went on the indie circuit, for those indie dramas at the time, back when there was kind of a market for them. You saw more of them, especially after the early 90s, that rush of indie filmmaking. And it finally came through. And and the best part is because the bit that I was in was to be filmed in Yellow Springs, like specifically. So they were looking for a local boy for that. I wasn't, not someone that they could travel, just a day player, as we call them now, But we go see the movie, and we go in and watch it, and the scene itself is like cut, like the carjacking is cut. But we do see me throwing papers there on the street for just a couple seconds. So I'm bummed out and shit. And me and my mom, we walk out, and there's a director. He remembers us and comes over and says hi. And my mom's like, "So the paperboy scene?" He's like, "Yeah, he's like, I wish I had a way to tell you beforehand." He's like, they ended up having to shave, a lot of minutes off the movie, and it was just one thing that circumstance was one thing they could lose from the movie, and it wouldn't make too much of a difference. I imagine that's usually the problem, right? But that was my first jump there was, hitting the cutting room floor.
Right. And
So
it's
like,
and I don't think a lot of people who just a lot of the audience, people who are just in the audience recognize how often that actually happens, especially when you're starting out. When you're not the face of the feature, how often like what we do lands on the cutting room floor. I remember before I even went to school, I was doing the extra gig, very much like Ricky Gervais doing extra stuff. And I pulled a gig. I pulled a small part. I got lucky, and I was an extra, and then I got elevated to in this one scene, and it was for a movie called Serving Sarah, which shot out in Fort
Matthew
Worth.
Perry and Elizabeth
Yeah,
Hurley.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful experience. Love being on there. I have friends that I made there that I still have, that I still call friends to this day. Met Matthew Perry, met Liz Hurley, met Bruce Campbell, Vincent Pastore. It was a fun time. It was a fun time. Didn't get to meet Cedric the Entertainer though, but I got to be one of the security guards during the big Will Rogers. They were doing like a monster truck rally sequence, and during the evacuation scene, they needed people who you could recognize as security guards who were like helping people out who were going to be in the frame. And I got tapped because I'm a fairly big dude and I had a cowboy hat, and they're like, "Yeah, grab him. He looks great. Just stick him right there in the middle." And I was like, "Oh, it's never happened before." You're kind of like, "Oh." And then I go to watch the movie, and I was like, the movie wasn't great, but I was kind of like, "But it wasn't there." And I was like, "Ah!" So they're just one of those moments they shaved. It always surprises you.
But the memory of that, that first kind of gig, is that stays with you forever. I'm glad I got it so early. I'm glad I got the cutting room bit so early rather than much later. I've been pretty lucky in that regard since. So I count my blessings there.
You've maintained a solid momentum, and I love seeing that the momentum you've taken now in between Dreamcatcher and what I think was your first horror film, which was I saw who was in it and I had to watch. It was Camp Out. And so this was amazing. This early on, and to work with Clint, to be in a film with Clint Howard, and also Zach Galligan from Gremlins, and I was like, holy shit! And kicking that off one with this horror film Out in the Woods, I thought was fantastic. And so, but was Camp Out just kind of like circumstances led to that, or was there something? It was kind of like, that's the next movie that came along, so I'm going to jump on that one. That was the first opportunity.
I think at that point, like I had sent I'd gotten an agent based on like these experience. I'd done 2 short films, one that led to the other. Like it all started with a play that caught the attention of a film student at Wright State. Nice. Did a short film with him. Another guy saw that film, so I tried for his, and then that one there was called Good News for Modern Man. It was I think originally it was like a good 45 minutes, but the final edit was like 24 minutes. I don't know why that is. It certainly wasn't because I had to be cut for time. But the filmmaker was a very, very particular, very, very interesting film. Like I haven't worked with anyone like him yet in terms of style.
Nice.
Like he's very, very unique style. But that led to, I sought an agent. I went to the agent, you try out for millions of things, man, and nothing. And finally this little horror movie comes through. They're looking for a news reporter for this sequence. And I got that, it was just a couple hours away, and I went. It was so low budget, I kind of brought my own wardrobe, and there was lodging and stuff, but I did the wardrobe. There wasn't exactly a makeup lady. But I had a good time. I mean, I spent most of my day, man, just hanging out with Zach Galligan, talking to him a little bit. Chris Nash, who was, really, really popular in the 80s. Now he's just more of a musician. But to me, he's you know, awesome. Like I dig the guy's work. He was a lot of fun to talk to. Very, very smart dude. Dave Sherrill was also in it. They were all like together in a movie called The Wraith. The
Yes.
film came. That's where a chunk of this cast was, where them and the directors all met and stuff like that. Dave Sherrill, James Bosian, Chris Nash, they're all the Wraith alumni. And I'd seen the Wraith. I loved it as a kid. So to meet Skunk, oh, and Clint Howard too. So
Oh,
there's
now,
the fourth
yeah,
guy.
I was just thinking that. I was
So to
like,
meet the guy that played Skunk, I used to quote him when I was a kid. Like he said, the funniest shit in the movie The Wraith, like the funniest shit. And I feel like it went overlooked at how goddamn funny he was in that. But I mean, that was my day, man. Hanging out with those guys. We went out, shot the scene. I'm generally, I try to be a minimal take performer. I don't like to waste anybody's time.
right.
But I mean, it
Or
was
what I remember my my day, well, the professor of one of my professors at KD, Clark Lindsley, would refer to that as masturbating. Is like, you just don't masturbate in front of the camera. Don't sit there and just be like, oh, I'm an actor, because all you're doing is just jerking off
yeah,
for anybody. He was a man of very few words, but he's like, don't jerk off in front of the camera, dude. I'm not paying you for that. So I
yep.
was like, sweet.
I know exactly what he means,
Yeah.
man. I know exactly what he means. But I mean, I had a good time on the flick. It took a while to come out, and then I went and saw that when it came out. Some of the cast was there and stuff. But
Nice.
I remember it was so late though, and it was so far away. I had to work the next morning, so I had to peel. Like I had to dip out right when the credits rolled. I couldn't stay around and say hi. Like I had to go, man. I was like, I got to work in like 6 hours, dude. But that was that was the first film to come through the agency that I actually landed. Was Glenn
Nice.
Martin's Camp Out, which the name now, like if you look for it, it's called American Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. Always that first horror film that gets you. I think it was a slasher was mine, and they're always so unique and so much fun to be on, because
Oh yeah,
whenever you walk into a project, with I can say with any genre, there's always a level of that. I think that we both know that this industry can be very unpredictable, and you never know what's going to go down on a set. It can
oh
be
yeah.
kind of wild, but the horror genre uniquely has a level of unpredictability to it because of the things that typically we're doing while shooting. A romance, an adventure film or a comedy like that, those things we generally understand them, but with horror, anything goes.
Yeah.
And that brings me to a personal favorite of mine that you were in, and is interesting because is Haunt,
Oh
which
yeah.
you
Thanks, man.
yeah, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Number one, it came at the time, I think it was like 2018, it was shot 2019 is when it was released,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was about that time when extreme haunted houses kind of had the attention of people, the attention of individuals who dug that thing. They started popping up. Like McCamey Manor down in the South, which I think
Yeah.
recently got shut down. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I read that.
it comes out with Haunt. But you come out with Haunt, and first I'm seeing as Ghost, working underneath that costume can always be a challenge. Was that the first time you'd worked where none of this, all of your tool, like all of the tools, then none of it are available. All it is just your voice and how you and the cadence right there and the mask.
Not on film, but in theater, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And the thing about Haunt was, when I auditioned for it, I was just like beginning production of King Lear. But I auditioned, and the process takes so long.
Mm.
I'm still a part of the play, even if I'm like, oh, and after the first audition, I get a call back, and oh, this is awesome, because all I knew about the movie was it was essentially, it was a haunted house movie, and Eli Roth is the only name that was attached to it. Hell, I didn't even know at the first read, like if there was like only a few sides. I didn't even know for certain if Mitch was a bad guy or not. I had to get clarification. Like I asked Leia, I was like, "Can you tell me that?" She said, "Oh yeah, he's bad." Like, okay, bet. I was like, there's
Yeah.
my. But I knew that it would be kind of vocally driven, because these guys are going to watch me and they're going to have to be thinking about me faceless behind a mask saying this shit, right? And but doing this play at the same time, I was already in the zone of like projecting louder than usual, like really enunciating, hitting, really punching certain words. So I think being in that, like the theater, being active at that moment, at the same time, I think it helped the physical aspect of acting underneath the sheet and the mask and stuff.
Mm.
So
Something that stood out to me in that I thought was but I just personally have to say, because I've seen the movie, probably no less than six, 7 times. But I thought the choice was brilliant on behalf of Ghost, because in the disarming way that your character speaks to the people around it, because it's not one of those in a mask instantaneously I'm a threat, I'm the danger, where it's not like Halloween or Friday 13th or anything of that nature. It's supposed to these are victims, but if they know they're victims, they're going to run and become problematic. So the whole point is to draw them into a false sense of security. And that initial interaction right there with that disarming quality that you brought to it, I thought was very, very cool and lent itself
thanks, man.
very well to the theme of what's going on here. And also introduce a level of humanity to it that typically you don't see. Normally, it's just psychos in place. We
Yeah,
got you, we got you. That's it. I liked the grounding of it, which I thought made Haunt unique. And it was a pleasure. For anybody who hasn't seen it there, I believe it's still on Shudder. If you're to those who are listening here, definitely check it out if you get the opportunity. So a lot of fun in that one. Now, obviously, I've dug that the roles you've taken, that all of them, have presented a kind of like unique kind of. I like the fact that that you're willing to take on new things and try new things and take risks, which is always smart. It's always what I was trained to do. What I think actors should be willing to do. And then coming up after that, I know you had Dark Waters, but Wrong Turn, the reboot of an established franchise with 6 films under its belt. So walking into that, and you were Hobbs in that.
Yeah.
So that's got to be daunting. I mean, from my perspective, that's got to be daunting. What is that like walking into an established IP that's gone 6 films now since? I mean, back when it was Desmond Harrington and Elijah Dushku back in the day. I remember seeing that in theaters, and it was kind of like, and 6
Me
movies
too. I saw
later,
that in the theater too, man. That
right?
was
And now here you come along, and then now you're slated to be a driving force and a minor I would say secondary antagonist in a complete reboot of this new franchise. The weight of that has got to be impressive.
well, like I was a fan of the Wrong Turn 1. That's that's a classic. That kind of breathed life back into the scary in the woods stuff. Because look at all the shit that came after it. Part 2 was a lot of fun. Joe Lynch had fun with it, but it wasn't the same as part 1. And the rest of them, 4 through 6, if we're being honest, man, they were bullshit. So I maybe I went into it like not paying that much attention. I was kind of gullible. I was thinking people would just be happy for a new one, like a new, because I liked the script. Originally it was called The Foundation. It would, or Wrong Turn, The Foundation, because that was the name of the community. And so we were operating and working under the idea that was called The Foundation. I just thought people would be happy and would like that there would be a new one, and they would appreciate the new direction. It's got more of a story, way more of a there's a message in this one. You know what I mean? It's pretty and it's not really hard to figure it out. Like
Right.
it's not a difficult film, but
I also thought it was
there's
topical.
efforts made there, and it's it's I think it's pretty damn good myself. Like Mike Nelson did a great job. I think the cast was great. But what I didn't think about or understand at first, which I would later come to realize, was that fucking with an established IP could be dangerous. And there, like I was gullible to the idea that there might, people might not like it, or they might shit all over it, to be mean. So I started, I read a few bad reviews. I'm like, God damn. Like, wow. And then, you read some good ones. That's why I think I stopped reading reviews after that, actually, because I let them bug me a little too much
Right.
with that one. But I mean, you mess with an established IP already, you're going to take a risk, just like with every Star Wars movie with a new director, someone's not happy about it. Someone
Right.
is, someone's not. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you take them where you can get them. And, the hits and misses are going to come regardless. So, as long as you're doing the work. I actually like the idea that I like the direction of calling it the foundation, or even if it was wrong turn, the foundation to indicate that it may be in the same vein, but just calling it wrong turn. And I know it's nowhere near. I think that you and the cast and the crew may have been done a disservice in that, because the performances were great. The story was far more grounded and I think topical, especially the time that it was coming out, when that came out in 2021, given, the kind of like political upheaval that's going on in the nation at the time, and people kind of like, the different subcultures that are kind of like riled up at this moment. And I thought it was a perfect examination to examine like the roots of America and go along those routes. And then I think marketing wise, whoever the marketing geniuses are out there, I love you marketing geniuses, but sometimes I don't. But sometimes the marketing geniuses make decisions, I think, for the sake of the bottom line, and they wind up doing all of the creative minds behind that a disservice. I think the movie was solid, and I think the only reason people went after it, or horror fans went after it, is because it was wrong turn and it wasn't inbred mutant cannibals eating idiots in the woods.
The name wrong turn may have suggested like that's what they were getting. And there were some bad guys and some heinous activities, but no, you did not have inbred two-fingered mutants. I mean, they were all people. The thing about Hobbs, I just dove in for it and kind of made my decisions early and stuck with them. And what I did, I like to think, I treated it kind of as an ode to the other wrong turn bad guys, right? Because we had Venable, the main guy, who was essentially, I mean, you break it down, they did some barbaric shit, but essentially, in his eyes, he's a man of reason, and won't do an unnecessary evil, right? I was like, well, there's no, one thing every wrong turn had was like some disgusting, inbred doing gross, sexual assault of some kind.
Right. Some grotesque centerpiece scene,
and I'm like, well, there's none of that in there. And I've got that glorious line, like what is it? I can smell your juices or something. And then he's talking about after your eyes are cut out, where I'm going to keep you from me. So I'm like, well, there it is right there. This is who he is in the hierarchy. And I treated it kind of like, a Shakespearean kingdom, if you will. In the hierarchy of things, I was the the villainous politician on this board of directors. He was a man of reason. I am secretly a fucking, I'm the dirty lawyer. I'm the Saul Goodman behind his back.
Nice.
Not that Saul was rapacious or anything, but I wanted to make him like, I was like, okay, well, he's our wink to the other bad guys. He's got he'll break protocol to do terrible things his way. If Venable don't approve, he'll do it anyway,
And that's part of the smartness. I thought that was part of the intelligence of the script. In and of itself, you have ostensibly on this kind of like board of like, I don't want to call it a board of directors, but of like the kind of like the council that they have.
That's a better word. That's
the specific individuals they have all kind of represent a specific thing or a thing that we kind of like that represents human nature. And I love Bill Sage. I love Bill Sage ever since, his role, ever since I saw him in American Psycho. It was like going all the way back then. But I thought that it was extremely well presented, and ultimately the film was just done a disservice by the people in marketing.
And it was released like I saw it in the theaters, man. Like in the heart of COVID, so they still had the barriers up and everything. Everyone was still on fucking DEFCON 4, so it was released the release of it, didn't help its
Right.
box office results much. But it's grown, I like to think it's grown in audience a little bit more.
I think people are finding a better appreciation
Since.
of it. I do.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Maybe it just takes a little time. Horror fans are great, man. If they love something, they love it like no other. But if they don't like something, they will hate that shit like it, stole their lunch money or something.
yes, they will. Yes, they will.
But bless them, though. But bless the horror fans, man.
I'll say
I'm one of them. So
it's an insular group, but once you find your way in, I don't think I've ever met a group more loving and welcoming of anything you do. But breaking into it is tough. Because we found that with this podcast is kind of like, will the horror fans take to us for what we do? I mean, I'm a writer, I'm a director, I'm an actor myself. Eugene is a director, he's a cinematographer, DP, and actor as well. We're all working in the industry, but will they take us seriously coming in and talking about their films? Because we're honest and we don't hold back on occasion. And it's taken time. But eventually you kind of like you just like, okay, then they'll bring you in. Now this is intriguing because you brought up because bringing up Joe Lynch, and I had asked about this because I'm also a voice actor and got the opportunity of working with Funimation for some time and love doing voice acting. In my opinion, it is the purest form of acting because you're in the studio, there's no camera on you. None of this matters. It's all here. And I find the energy and everything you drive in to sell it with your voice just allows your body to be free to do whatever. That's my take. And you got to do some voice work for a little project called Happy Slashers.
Which, I wish, man, it never actually came to fruition.
Oh, it didn't?
No, it didn't, unfortunately. I mean, as far as I know, I was never. I mean, I remember there was an indie. It was so long ago. At the time, Damien Maffei, the guy that played the devil in Haunt, he had told me about it, and I had the guy. I did, a Chucky impression for him, and I think I do a pretty damn good one, or I did at the time. Like I took some time to really get try to get the Brad Dorff thing down. This stuff I read of it, I thought was pretty funny, but I mean, I think essentially, if I'm not mistaken, he would have run into some copyright issues and things like that, like stuff only like Trey Parker and Matt Stone can get around somehow.
Right.
Like those guys somehow do whatever they want, and it's absolutely brilliant. They're an inspiration to us all. Those two guys, man.
That would have been fascinating because you essentially doing, or Chuck, but you doing the Chucky, but the opportunity, because I saw that Joe Lynch in there as well. And by the way, I just, I'm a huge fan of Lynch and I've been supporting, I love Suitable Flesh, and I've been supporting trying to get Entertainment or Entertainment One to release the Joe Lynch cut of Knights of Badassdom because I want that fucking movie.
Did he direct it?
He did.
Was that him?
And I want the Joe Lynch cut.
A while back. That's where they're knights, like Dink lives.
Right, yeah, the LARPers who summoned a demon.
I enjoyed that one. a lot.
And what's
I didn't realize that was him. I was hoping I'd get a chance to meet him and I could be like, you because I've met him before and I know he wouldn't remember, but he didn't cast me in what's it called? Point Blank, I think is what it was called. With Grillo and Mackie.
Okay, yeah. Oh shit! Right.
I mean, I got called back and everything. Got to go into a room with him, and I had just gotten Shudder not too long before that, so I'd just seen Mayhem.
Nice.
And the first thing I told him was like, "Hey, man, I hadn't seen Hollister or House anything like that yet, but I was familiar with his work, and I was a fan." So I told him that, and he's like, "I was like, I love Mayhem, dude. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, you didn't bootleg it, did you? Or something to that effect. He's like, you didn't not bootleg. You didn't download it?
Pirate it. You didn't pirate it. Yeah.
And I said, like, my instant reaction, like, I was like, fuck no, dude, Shudder. I was like, I have a move. I got Shudder because Haunt went to Shudder. Right. That's why I got it, and I've kept it because Joe Bob went on there. It's just Shudder's got a lot of great material, a lot of great stuff on it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was I think the one I hope to one day get an opportunity to work with Joe. He's fantastic. I've loved his work, and the one, and I think it came around the 10th anniversary. It was in 2023, where I tweeted out to E1 and I was like, it's been 10 years, people. It is time to release the Joe Lynch cut. And I tagged him in it because I've been clamoring for that. I know they have it, and I want it released because the director's cut, the original cut of the film, is supposed to be phenomenal. Kurt Russell saw it and said, this movie is fucking hilarious. Like, this is amazing. He compared it to the original Ghostbusters. And I was like, that's coming from Kurt Russell. I'm going to take his word on that one. And then
whatever Kurt says is gospel, unless I learn otherwise. You know what I mean?
He's McCready. We're going to listen to everything he says.
Absolutely. I'll follow Kurt in the battle, man. I haven't even met the man, but he's got my undivided loyalty.
That's amazing. All right. Yeah. One day, hopefully we'll get that. Hopefully we will. Now, a big one, that I thought was beyond fucking cool, because I was a big fan of Anthony DeBlasi. I fucking loved Late Phases. Or sorry, not Late Phases. I fucking loved Last Shift.
Late Phases is a good flick too, though.
That's a good flick as well. I'm thinking of Nick D'Amici, who I'm hoping to work with on an upcoming project. Fingers crossed. But Last Shift, I thought was magnificent. But then I heard about Malum coming out, and I was like, it's so rare for a director to get the opportunity to or to basically bring the vision of their project the way they wanted it, the way they really envisioned, with the budget necessary behind it, to do originally what they want to do, and to get the opportunity to kind of remake an original idea and be like, this is my original vision. And I imagine, and I thought were fantastic as John, and that ultra, just, it lends itself so well. Especially that opening. Holy shit, man.
Thanks,
so fucking good. But I thought that had to be a unique experience. Anthony must have been beside himself to get to do that.
I think he was, man. I think he was. And he deserved it. Like, I'd seen The Last Shift years before. Like, it had to be right around the time it came out. Like, I mean, I want to say I saw it probably 2016, maybe. Just came across it, watched it. It's like quick hour and a half. I remember thinking, this movie's damn good. I guess this movie's damn good. Look and see the name, and I recognize the name. I was like, what do I know it from? Because it's not. I was like, maybe it's not the only de Blasi. But I looked it up. Turns out he had done a movie called Dread that I'd seen. I'd bought that whole series of movies when they came out, and they weren't all very good, but some of them were standout good. Where you're like, damn, this could have been.
That was in the After Dark Horror Fest. Yes,
the horror films. I
remember
horror series.
I remember screening Dread at Texas Frightmare Weekend. Like, when I used to do press for them, and I remember the year that came out, that they screened Dread and finally Dread and Final Exam. Those two got showed back to back, and I got to screen them both, and I was like, holy shit, this is great. Didn't realize who I was. Like, I was new. I was doing press. I was like, had no idea what was going to be coming in the future. But yeah, I fucking loved Dread. Oh, loved it.
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't a typical. It was heavy. It was like character driven. It had like a dark bleakness about it. That you just don't see it all the time. So I was like, okay, I dig. I remember the name, and then get an email. And it said something about a Last Shift reboot. I was like, I was like, the same one. So I'd already seen it. I wasn't going to go back and rewatch it, but I noticed in the script that the bad guy was talking more, like, he had a thing. So I was like, oh, did a read and instead of like a callback, I just get a call saying, hey, Anthony DeBlasi, he just wants to talk to you. And it was, I think it came like a week or so later, and it was right at the point to where you start to try to stop thinking about it. Like you know what I mean, where you're like, you're trying to get over it real quick and hope something else will come real quick and take your attention off of it. So I was right on the cusp of that. And so I talked to him, and we ran through it a little bit. I told him, I had obviously done my homework, realized he'd been working with Barker for a long time, and co-produced Midnight Meat Train, which, I love that movie. Love that flick. And he talks about, the prey. He had seen Haunt, I think essentially that kind of helped me get my foot in the door. like with
Nice.
all the tapes coming in, if he was looking for someone local, Haunt, I think, definitely helped. Goddamn, I couldn't be more grateful about that. And as the conversation wraps up, I'm a straight shooter. It's like, well, so I got it or what? I was like, well, what do you think, man? And then I could hear them, but like, because it's me, him, and I think the producer. I'm not sure who the third guy was. About that guy, he's like, just you keep your phone on. It's like that. So I hang up thinking like, yeah, I'm like, well, he's the biggest dick in the world if I don't get the part, right?
dangling for you.
Like, that's the ultimate dangle, man. But I think a couple of hours, the agent got a hold of me and said I got it, man. And I was
Nice.
beyond ecstatic, man. I couldn't wait to read the full script, and then he had a full, basically a full short story, kind of detailing John, from start to finish, like his early years up through all this terrific material, that could be a movie on its own. I'm not big on sequels or prequels or anything because, well, that aside, I loved it, and I never rewatched the old one, because the names are different. They're different entity altogether. This the flock of the low god. That's this movie's thing. So I mean, it's that one. It's not hard to like talk about how I prepared. It's just kind of hard to put into words. It was simple. Like I wanted to be I wanted him to be as magnetic as possible, because I'm not a very big guy. And they couldn't possibly film me to be much taller than I am, right? So I tried to be I thought of myself like appearance wise as like Everett McGill, like a people
Nice.
under the stairs,
Yeah.
Everett
Yep.
McGill, like a kind of the preacher in Silver Bullet, that kind of he's a skinny looking guy, but there's something very threatening about the way I tried to imagine, like that's how I looked, and I tried to fill the persona with that without chewing scenery. I was worried about that. I didn't want to get too far out there with it, where it's it becomes sloppy, or like I'm the bad guy, with a evil voice and shit and eyebrow rate. I wanted to make it as non-stock as possible. Make it as personable as possible.
There was a realness to it that I think a lot of individuals will connect with as far as the presentation goes. I thought that the sequences they come off organic, and I thought it just flowed so well, and it allows such an excellent injection of energy, and this kind of like I wouldn't say like it's not. It's hard to like you said, it's hard to articulate. Not a kind of staccato, but it allows for this for the building of this growing crescendo in the background, while our main character Jessica is going on her journey. As she is going on one trajectory, we feel an entirely other trajectory moving alongside that is driven by your energy. And so we have these two things that are going to ultimately collide, and then we see them coming up together like that. And I thought the balance of that was brilliant. I think, obviously all of you did a magnificent job in that. And I've always found it to be really, really cool to be on set with a director who knows exactly what they want to do, that has that plan in mind. And like I said, Anthony had to have been beside himself to get the opportunity to do this again, do it the way he envisioned it, to have that money and access. And when the director is on point, that means the crew is on point. That means everybody else can be on point as well, because everybody knows what they want. And that the communication lines are easy, and that allows you time as an actor to explore and really take those real world inspirations to build that character and make it ultimately really terrifying, which I thought lent itself beautifully to the whole thing. I mean, it's a rare experience, which as an actor, I think I don't think I've run into it once in my 20 plus years where like one director was like, I know it, like he came in, story, build it, like that. It's like he's doing all the world building for us, and we're just like, we're just playing in his world. I thought I love it. You know, too often you get directors who are just like, you know, it's a paycheck. I'm here, did aim, yeah, but and then it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll just handle it all on our end.
Like they filmed it. I'm not sure how long the shoot was in its entirety, but I know Jess was, you know, doing 12, 13 hours almost every day. You know, she was giving it hell, man. She was a champ. And yeah, man, I mean, you know, every shoot is hectic. Every shoot falls behind a little bit from time to time. But yeah, I mean, everything, there was nothing up for question. You know, we knew exactly what he wanted, communicated it perfectly. All the actors I interacted with, they all had a great time. You know, I mean, I'm not the type, you know, to really stew in it in between takes. You know, I'll catch my breath, you know, but everybody just had a blast.
Awesome.
I liked watching the girls, the girls I'm like arrested with, their interrogations. I loved watching them because I got to watch them film theirs. You know, I don't know if they knew I saw, but I was, you know, watching the monitors and stuff. So I'm like, oh man. And they went before me, and that really helped break the ice. You know, like,
yeah, okay, awesome.
Wow. Like, man,
they set the tone with, okay, that's the level of their fanaticism.
Yes.
Fantastic. Now I know where
I was
need
like,
to
okay,
go.
now I got like figure out real quick. Like you can go to your dressing room, figure out real quick how you could have created that sickness in them, you know.
What's the bar for crazy here? Who's gonna set that thing?
Yeah.
I love that.
So
awesome.
they really helped, man. Whether they know it or not, I think they're named Clark Wolf and Morgan Lennon, I believe. Yeah, they killed it, man. They were blessed to watch.
Oh, that's like I lovely ladies, and their career's been fantastic, but batshit. And I was like, and to see that level, I thought is so that's always had experiences like that are so few and far between. I'm so glad that you got to get that one, especially with one. I think that the horror genre, the entire like audience, I think the horror community loved Last Shift, and it was so underplayed.
It was,
and
you know,
should have gotten more.
Like, where the hell were these? And again, this was like the safety net I thought I you know, and we do have here, in my opinion, is that we're fucking with an IP, but the guy that it's his,
right?
It's his. He can do with it what he wants. So, you know, people, I can't believe they're remade this movie. Who is it? It's his. He can do what he wants with it. What do you mean? Like I don't understand what you're talking about. He can do what he wants. It's his. And the same with Wrong Turn. The guy that wrote Wrong Turn, the very first one, wrote the foundation, right? So respect the writer's vision. Respect the guy that created it. If this is where he wants to take it, respect that.
It's almost like the love when people were talking. It's kind of like Kevin Williamson and Scream. And then when they were continuing Scream on with 5, 6, and 7, and then Kevin Williamson was coming back, and then but he wasn't as involved, but now he's ultra involved in Scream 7. I think is going to come out here pretty soon. But now Kevin is not only writing it but also directing it. Now all of a sudden it's got all the love again. So, and I think the same thing with The Grudge. The Grudge, the original Ju-on, terrifying film, absolutely loved it, and it was that director who came over to do the American version, and he got a lot more latitude because of that. I think maybe the media wasn't on it, or maybe the names weren't as recognizable. I have no idea, but that should have been something people latched onto.
The Grudge, the remake, but it was the same director, huh?
Yeah, in the 2003 one,
did an American version of it
with Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah, that was that one back in 2003. This newest one that came out,
got a lot of hate, didn't it?
Initially, when they heard they were going to remake it, they heard an American version of a Japanese horror film, blah, and then there's like, oh wait, the original director of the Japanese one's coming over. He's written it and he's directing it for an American audience.
Well, good.
And he nailed it. So
good.
Exactly.
I thought they had because what Hollywood likes to do, and they're doing it right now with a movie I saw about a year ago that still haunts me to this day. They've already taken it, they've already remade it, and it's about to come out. They'd like to remake. Hey, sweetheart.
Hi, Dad.
How you doing, honey?
I just threw up a lot.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, at Papa's.
Oh, okay. We'll go lay down.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get in the shower.
Yeah, do that.
The
I'm
adventure never
sorry.
ends.
Yes, yeah. Where was I? I totally forgot. It was something funny.
Film they just remade and it's about to come out. You're talking
Yeah,
about
well, Hollywood loves to do that. If there's
yeah
something really excellent, they will take it immediately and repackage it, right? Like they did it with the REC movie.
with
I think they
Wrecking
redid that in the same
Quarantine, right?
fucking year, man. I think it was the same year they jacked it and did it. The movie I'm talking about is Speak No Evil.
Speak No Evil. I
Yeah. Now I'm
fucking
gonna
knew you were
watch it
bringing it
because
up. Yeah.
McAvoy is brilliant. I love McAvoy. I'm gonna watch it, but I guarantee you they're gonna fuck that ending up. And it's the ending of that movie that haunted me, you know. And it's not your typical American ending.
It's like they did the
Right.
same thing with I don't know how I mean if you remember the 2007 film called Inside,
Oh yes, yes.
French
Oh
New Wave
yeah.
Extreme, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
remade it with oh I can't remember her name. Her name is Rachel from Continuum like this, but they remade that film and kept as much of the savagery as they could. Completely changed the ending for American audiences. It was like
Okay, yeah. Well,
it
see,
hits
the original
completely differently.
Inside was a part of that glorious wave of French horror, right?
Yes.
And one of them was a part of the film, the After Dark film uh, collection
Mm-hmm.
called Frontiers.
Yes.
Man, that movie was so good. I'm like, why is it even in this lineup? It should have been released big on its own. That was like their response to like Hostel, and it kicked it up a notch. You know, I thought Frontiers was just epic. I thought that was fabulous. Inside with Martyrs, it was like this time, man, when there was so much awesome shit coming out of France.
I love that. I love
Excellent
that.
film.
I love that I've gotten to introduce people to Martyrs. They're kind of like, I'm looking for something extreme that's gonna make me
Shit, yeah,
squirm. And I'm
Martyrs,
like,
man, that's the go-to.
I got a
You could
French film.
always
I'm gonna
say something awful like Serbian film or something stupid, right?
right.
But if you want shit, you want a real brutal experience. And I can't tell you what, but beyond the violence, what makes it so powerful. I can't say it's like lightning in a bottle. It's not easy
Right.
to get through, but its brutality by the end of the film, as odd as it is to say, feels justified for its overall point, if you will, or at least what I got from it.
Oh, that one sat with me for a minute. Yeah, and
Oh
then
yeah, man.
then
Oh yeah.
I made
It's
I
a
made the
top of the list, especially
we
in
made
terms
the
of influence.
we made the mistake of
It
watching the
influenced
remake.
the like posters and stuff for Malum.
Oh yeah,
The posters had that French horror. Like,
I love minimal. I love the
Martyr, like one
minimalist.
of them
Yeah,
with it's Jessica with the blood coming down. That's like
right.
an ode to martyrs. You know, the box for
Nice.
that with the two girls like
I
looking
love
up.
that. Yeah, and minimalist deal. It always works for me. I love simplistic. Especially I love the one with just the Malum and then the barely visible dude with the mask, and then that scene. I love shit like that. It just conveys just enough. Very similar to Malignant. I really dug the limited marketing, the very simplistic marketing on Malignant, the black and the red and the half image and the connectivity between that. It kind of now that you've seen the film, you understand it. I've always dug. It's smarter. It makes people think.
Mhm.
And I that's my kind of horror. I love that kind of shit. And so, so fucking cool. Absolutely
Yep.
cool. Now, going forward, you've got a ton of shit, either in the can, in production, various levels of stage of production, according to IMDb. I see that.
Hmm.
But and of the things coming out, of a whole bunch of stuff, some horror, some other things. But one thing that caught my attention that I'm hoping it's not out yet, but I'm hoping you like whatever you can talk about if you're not under NDA or like this is I read about Bunker Heights.
Hmm.
And the reason Bunker Heights got me is because here on Week in Horror, one of our cast members is Johnny O. Johnny O's former I call him a rock god. He's a heavy metal guitarist, and that's where his start was. But the dude's a badass musician, and he knows music. And I fucking love it when the music genre, especially heavy metal, but the music genre and horror come together. Lords of Chaos, thoroughly enjoyed that film. So
Yeah, man. Now
Bunker
I dug
Heights
Lords
with
of
that
Chaos.
pedigree.
I think because I studied that for a while. I was obsessed with the birth of black metal. Not because I loved black metal so much, but it intrigued the hell out of me. So I listened.
It's
to it for a
fascinating
while.
shit.
It
Right?
really is, man. Like just the history of it, and of course, you always go back to the boys in Mayhem. And some of the stuff they did wonk it out, like based on the documentaries I've seen. But I mean, it was made to please an American audience, not necessarily, obviously, not the guys over there. They wouldn't have cast all fucking Americans who said, you know what, fuck the accent.
It's not even necessary. Not even
None of
necessary
us.
for the story.
Nope. Yeah, but I really studied. Nope. Yeah, but these guys are like, you know, what were they? Norwegian?
Norwegian, yeah,
Yeah,
Norwegian
but these
black
guys are
metal. Yeah.
Norwegian as fuck though, man. Like, nope. Yeah. Norwegia, California. Shit. But no, I did. I enjoyed the movie. I won't say I won. I really did. I thought Culkin was stellar.
Oh, it's just,
Well,
he
so
fucking
was
just killed it.
Kilmer. I think Jack Kilmer was.
Jack Kilmer killed.
yeah.
Oh, that was next level because
Yeah.
you know, I was fascinated by the story when the book came out and the whole, like, you know, the ability. You know, I learned about this shit when I was younger about the birth of Norwegian black metal, and I thought Jack Kilmer had honestly, I personally think he's gonna go further than his dad did, and I have all the love and
hope so.
respect for Val. I really do.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but Jack has just got this fucking energy to him.
He's got his
that-
daddy's like magnetism.
Right,
You know,
and it
he's
just
got
caught me.
It was almost, I kept thinking about his dad as Jim Morrison watching that. You know,
Right.
like, these are two different types of two way different types of rock singers here, you know.
So Bunker Heights coming up. I don't think that there's a release date set for it, but that was I thought it was cool as hell.
Not yet. It's definitely still in post.
Still in post.
At
Okay.
the moment, yeah.
And directed by fucking Drew Fortier, man. That's awesome. And so I love
Let me
it.
tell you something. That guy, I love that guy. I do, man. And you know, I listen to the Lucid a lot now.
Nice.
They got some like, talk about a power group, dude. I can't believe I didn't know like already about them. I mean, all four of them are just stellar. But working with him, yeah, like I jumped at that opportunity.
And then working on because he's lead in that also.
Yeah,
he wrote it, directed it, and he's
wrote
starring.
it, directed it, and leading man in it.
And you get to work across from, and I can't believe I'm saying so Vinny Dombrowski.
You know, I didn't get to meet him.
Oh,
but man, like he did all his stuff after I was gone. It's him and you know, it says it on the IMDb, so I mean, I guess I can say him and Violent J.
I was about to say, I couldn't believe what you were saying.
Him and
Violent J.
Were in it, and I was like, "You're kidding me!" Like, damn. But I don't think it was. See, my bits were in Tennessee. It was filmed in a few different states. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was up in Detroit, and I wasn't there for that. But I would have liked to have been. I can tell you though, if the Lucid comes, you know, within a few hours of me, I'm going to go to that show.
Nice.
And because I want to meet Dombrowski. I was a huge. I love early '90s rock. You know, it's probably what I grew up on the most.
Grew up listening to Sponge,
and
man.
Sponge
was
man, Sponge was just excellent, man. Right at that time when there was just such good stuff coming out, like on even just modern rock radio was awesome. You know, they played good stuff, or the stuff they played was good.
Here in we're back in Dallas. I'm in Oklahoma now, but back in Dallas during those days, it was the Edge and it was the Eagle, and those were my two. And some of my friends were like, "Well, Kiss FM." I was like, "No, Edge for alt, Eagle for heavy. That's where you went."
Yeah, man. It was 103.9 the Edge for us, and 104.7 was the oldie station, which now is playing the jams that I was listening to 20 years ago, right? That's the oddest shit.
It's so wild because up here in Oklahoma now, the station I listen to is 100.3, and 100.3 plays the stuff I used to listen to back on the Eagle when the Eagle was 97.1 back in DFW, and the Edge was 94.5. So I still have these fond memories, but the opportunity to work with those cats, because I love the vision and the energy that musicians bring when they dive into that, because it's different. It's so different than what your classically trained or your typical, I would say, your garden variety director comes along that has film on the mind, because I think they view the medium in a different way. They view film in the kind of tempo and cadence that they view music. And so things move differently. and you
Yeah.
always get really fascinating results with that. I thought that would have been that's a fascinating. I think it's going to be cool. I can't wait for it to come out. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
It's one that I'm actually pretty stoked to check out myself. I had so much fun. It's probably the most fun I've had making a movie in
Nice.
terms of just the character and the vibe I got to bring for this one. I haven't each character I try to, if I'm lucky enough, you can make them a little different, make each of them a little different. And I hadn't done anybody like him yet. And I just had a blast. I had a blast doing it.
Now,
I was like, man, I want to do this kind of role more often. Like, this is fun.
Now, going forward, like your entire career has spanned so many different subgenres and all the things you've entailed. So, of the horror films that you've done so far, I'll kind of ask what has been your favorite type of horror film, your favorite subgenre, if you will.
Well, probably have to go back to when I was a kid, like to what I really made me kind of love the stuff. I say originally, as a kid, it was the Freddy Krueger thing, but like now that I'm older, I think I would say my favorite subgenre would be, a good creature feature.
Nice.
A really good creature. And I'm not talking about, Godzilla. I'm not a big Godzilla fan. You know what I mean? By the time I got hip to it, there was already like 50 movies and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody you talk to, if you hadn't seen them all, they treat you like you're a dumbass. Like,
that's a very interesting culture. Yeah.
They weren't released here. Like, why the hell would I know about them? I go back to like the thing, and so I haven't really made a great monster movie yet. That would be a lot of fun to do, because I love those a good practical monster, but I also don't mind a movie like Deep Rising, which is we made a lot of references to that in Bunker Heights, like that. Me personally,
nice.
I thought about that movie a lot, Deep Rising, because Drew is so knowledgeable, not only about music but about film. We communicate regularly through text, like just talking about movies, recommending movies. Like, hey, have you seen this? Like just last night, he had just seen Possession for the first time.
Nice.
And he's like, that movie is fucking wild, dude. And we chat about that for a few minutes. We're both big Sam Neill fans, so it's easy to talk about.
That was a blast. We got to talk about that one on the podcast a few months ago, and I didn't realize how many people that had never seen it. I was like, wait till you check this shit out.
Certainly an acquired taste. I mean, even like I watched it. I had the benefit of Joe Bob Briggs's commentary on it. So he would kind of in breaks kind of explain the abstract shit that your average person wouldn't quite catch on to. So I appreciated the pointers. Without them, I might have gotten a little annoyed. I might have. So I can't, but I might have. But if he wasn't there to kind of guide me about, the whole deal with the monster and shit like that, what was going on exactly in that tunnel, that kind of shit. If
during that sequence,
I might have gotten like really annoyed. Because it is like the whole movie is just like kind of a wild fucking weird dream. But the relationship stuff inside of it, the arguing, all that shit was just magnificent. Brutally effective. Boy, they sold it, man. They sold it. She just woke up one day and hated her husband, and just, there was no turning back. When she looked at him, she just
I loved it. I loved it for the film is so subversive. And for like I said, what Joe Bob brought to us fantastic. We love talking about obviously the political overtones that are playing into this, what was going on geopolitically at the time, how it informed the director. And I was like, that movie it's such a visual spectacle that will make people go like recoil at the surface, but it's so much better if you dig down into dig for that real material, and then it just becomes a whole other experience. We loved diving into that one. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So
but back to Drew's just like we talk about movies all the time. That guy's
nice.
He's an encyclopedia of knowledge, and I love to pick his brain. He's great to talk to.
So, creature feature. I hope to be practical effects as well. It's got to be practical effects. I got to stick with that. As far as your favorite kind of villain to play, because you've played a number of different villainous characters, but whether it's the psychological, the more brute force, the kind of masked killer in that sense, where the identityless masked killer. What's so far been your favorite kind of villain to embody as far as the genre goes?
My favorite
Or is there one you'd like to?
Well, I'd like to get more into, like, perhaps I'd say the funnest villain, and I can't really call it like it's Bunker Heights. Maybe if I say too much about that, because he's not a villain in that, I guess. Probably the Ghost. Just because with that villain, I got to kind of play both sides a little bit.
Yeah.
I like a devious bad guy, like the brute force would be fun. The rapacious crazy guy, that's silly, silly stuff. But the subversion of a character, like kind of a whodunit, if you will, villain. Like Agatha Christie. He's the bad guy at the end of the murder mystery. So probably Mitch has been my favorite, but if I could, and I don't necessarily seek out villains or anything. But yeah, Ghost has probably been the funnest because it was the most work.
I ask these because you never know what kind of movie I'm going to write next and what kind of feature I'm going to be writing. So if I cater one to where the villain meets specific criteria, I'd be like, hey, I think that this guy should play that because I kind of wrote with him in mind. I was trying to get sense.
Yeah, no,
creating opportunities, baby. It's what we do.
If I could, like, a bad guy I'd really love to play is a gangster,
nice,
a gangster. A really nasty gangster, and it could be. I'd prefer not a modern gangster because they're not as interesting. Not necessarily, Capone era, because that's just so long ago, and he spent 100 years already making those movies. But a good gangster, like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead is one of my favorite gangster films.
Nice.
A gangster like Jimmy the Saint, a sympathetic gangster, still a gangster.
Right.
But a gangster that by the end of the movie, whether he deserves to, meet his demise or not, there's respect there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, and also, because we mentioned Bunker Heights, and we don't want to spoil too much about Bunker Heights because I know we're all looking forward to that one. But another one that I've been following for some time, because we've talked about both of his films on the podcast, and I've cultivated a little bit of an acquaintance relationship via social media with Toby Jones. And
Tory Jones, yeah.
Tory Jones. And Tory, the Wicked One and the Wicked Ones, and now he's coming out, and I've been following the media campaign for him to get this movie done, and I've seen him fighting tooth and nail to get The Boy from Below done.
Yeah.
And that's, he's managed to bring in Dee Wallace, and who's, love her so much. Because I met her once, and my friend says she flirted with me. I don't think she was, but I think it was the beard. But I love Dee Wallace. She was everybody's mom back in the 80s.
She's flirty.
She's awesome. She's so
lovely.
cool. She signed my Cujo picture. Her and Danny Pintaro signed it together, so I thought that was awesome. But
nice.
I know that Tori's been fighting like mad to get that thing done, and that once again is kind of a return to an IP again. And that's I know it's been tough in him trying to get that done, but I think that's an excellent example of kind of like the journey as far as indie filmmakers go and what we go through, both as directors and as actors like that. And that's, anything you'd have to say about that experience? Because on this side of it, on the audience side of it, they don't really get to see it, but from the production side, that's different.
Well, this cat, I remember when when I think or at least, scrimming across it when that campaign started, it ran for a while, and man, he was Johnny on the spot with it, like, regularly. And I had already been through one Indiegogo campaign with multiple people, and it was almost backbreaking work, man. Like, almost backbreaking. If you could equate it to physical labor, it was like every day doing that was like a hard day in the field. Hauling hay and shit. So I was impressed at one, how much he was able to achieve on the Indiegogo. And somewhere, I think it was probably 3 months ago, he had contacted me and asked if I was interested, and saying, I didn't have to read for it or anything, but he told me a little about the character, and I hadn't yet seen the Wicked one, but I'd had some buddies that all worked for Tori on Phantom Fun World. Right. And they spoke well of it, and my buddy LC said, "Yeah, man, I'd work for him again," and that's generally good enough for me. I trust him. So I was like, "Yeah, man, yeah, so send me the script when it's done." So he ends up sending the script a little while later, and I read it. I liked the vibe of the character. I thought I could. So I was like, "Yeah, man, let's make it happen." And I went in, man, did my bit, left, came back, finished it up, and I was there for the final night. And it was a long, they went hard every day, start to finish, man, with a decent sized crew, but for what, it's a larger scaled flick. So it was a lot of work, man. And not for me necessarily. It's I think actors actually have it pretty damn good in comparison, right? I mean, can you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes they get lucky and they're out real early. These cats get there way before you, and they're there way long after you leave. But they gunned hard, man. They watching this just every day. I know it was hard for them, but they kept it going. The cast, there was a lot of talent there. I did not get to meet Dee Wallace. That was a bummer, but I did get to hang out with my buddy Felissa Rose.
Yep.
She's an absolute, she's a national treasure as far as I'm concerned. Watching her work is always fun. I was impressed with the scale of it, man, and how one guy, essentially Tori, was kind of spearheading a whole lot of it, himself. He took a lot of that directly on his shoulders, man. And I gotta tip my hat to him for that. Like it's shit's brutal. Not easy. He really needs to. He deserves a nice holiday.
We've had directors on before that have talked about running Indiegogo campaigns or Kickstarter campaigns in order to get their projects off the ground, and every single one of them have always said that one, it's an animal that it's a beast that you don't expect. That it almost is like you have to dedicate an entire unit just to running that campaign, because it's got to be nonstop. All go, no quit, every single moment. Just put it in front of every human being you possibly can.
It's very much a 40, like your standard 40-hour a week job,
right?
If not with some OT.
It's brutal, yeah. But I hope eventually, because I know because he's been busy, he's been so slammed. So I hope one day we can get Tori on the show as well to talk about that experience, because we love the Wicked One. We loved Wicked Ones, the sequel that he came up with, and we can't wait to see this one because we've been watching it grow as it comes along. So hopefully, eventually, we'll get Tori on. We could talk to him too. Now, the kind of the last thing that we kind of like to gauge, that we kind of like to hear about, is the state of the genre itself. As working professionals, whether we're acting or directing or producing or whatever we happen to be, whether we work in this industry, obviously, we are now having tasted the pandemic, having tasted the strikes that have come along, but the changes in technology, the advent of AI, the advent of all these things, the way we're seeing this take place. What are your kind of thoughts, not just for the horror genre, but for our jobs in general? What are your kind of thoughts in that, given the changing landscape? I ask this because I think we're seeing a rise in indie efforts because studios are just falling prey to the new hotness, and that the responsibility is falling on us. As someone in the trenches yourself, how do you see that playing out?
Well, AI, that's never been it sucks because with it, that's jobs lost. But it doesn't, I'm not really threatened by it because ultimately, AI, unless we go full Cameron, right? It's essentially just a computer, and it's going to take information it was already given, right? Whether it be book information or art information, all this shit that it's going to spew out. But it's basically just going to copy shit and interpret shit that's already kind of been done, right? Wait till it fucks around and like accidentally plagiarizes like a David Mamet line. They'll get sued to hell, right?
Right.
You accidentally, like, you think if they, in all its glory, they puts in, you know, a copywritten writer, somebody who takes their shit very, you accidentally use a Tarantino line, he's coming for you, right? So AI is nothing but already done shit reassembled by a computer. You know, there's no soul there, and some people might like it, but I think the real people, they'll always prefer the real thing, because it's a people business. We want stories from humans, you know, or unless it's a cartoon, we want stories from humans.
You see, it's
so the AI thing doesn't bother me.
It's fascinating because we explored this a bit on the podcast in one of our episodes. In one of the last, there was a time in filmmaking history when Technicolor pretty much ran the control on everybody with their with the way they colorized prints. And so studios had to do business with Technicolor in order to get their stuff colorized and everything. But because the three color method or putting color into films was a difficult task back then, and eventually audiences got tired of it because the quality wasn't great. It looked garish, and at first people were like, "Ooh, color," and then all of a sudden, no, they kind of fell out of favor. And they wanted to go back to what they knew. The old hotness of that was black and white, or the two-tone stuff, not the three-tone shit. And so the hotness wore off. And I'm thinking that there's a parallel here. Almost like 100 years later, there's a parallel here that AI and the advent of computer generated technology to the point where we can recreate people's faces, their voices to almost perfection.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it's a new hotness. And while there will be the studios for the bottom line will embrace that, that means our mainstream shit's quality is going to go down for a bit. But that means that the weight of it comes on us as the indie producers to make that quality shit again. Once the audiences come back and realize that's not really what we wanted, let's go back to the stuff that, you know, we love, which is now we're seeing an uptick in practical effects, an uptick in indie performances where people are allowed to perform and not do this formulaic studio bullshit that we all get cornered into on big projects. The shit that George Romero didn't love, you know, the shit that pushed him away and and kept him in indies. So that's what I've said. That's where I see it going. That it's just a new hotness that people are going to forget.
Just a fad, right?
Just a fad.
Just a trend. Yep.
It's going to come down. It's going to come down to the performers. It's going to come down to the flesh and blood that goes into it.
You know, it's like every couple of years, like, you know, there's a huge surge in vampire movies,
right?
And then there's a huge surge in werewolf. You know, it's all like the clown thing is, you know, kind of what it is at the moment. Clowns, you know, that'll go. It'll be something else, and you know, it's the way it is. It keeps moving. You know, like for a second there's a lot of haunted house movies. When Hunt came out, there's a whole wave of them, all with the same damn plot. Like almost every single one of them with the same plot. I remember thinking, Jesus, there's like 3 of these in the same row. Luckily, I think Hunt was the best out of those. Not that the others weren't good, but like luckily I was like, okay, yeah, this one's.
I don't know. I honestly, I'll say it because I'm not a critic or anything like that, but I'll say that Haunt was leagues better than the Houses October built. That's just, you know, my personal opinion there. I'm just going to stay that outright, and because I thought Haunt was grounded and smart, and I don't think found footage lends itself to that. I really, really don't. The only found footage one I dug was Hell House. Hell House LOC was solid. I really enjoyed that. I think Haunt is just as good, but it's erratic. It's just a different film. Same theme.
Yeah, different type of flick.
Right.
But yeah, I actually I love all those Hell House movies. I think they were all fun. First and part 1 and 2 were, you know, right, like every now and again I get just so tired of found footage stuff that it takes, you know, and then boom, one comes that's really good.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it always kills me.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any plans going into directing?
Well, I learned so much on every set you know, whether it's like something good or bad, like I'm learning, so that one day perhaps I would like to try the director's chair. But I'll need a little bit more time because I'm slowly kind of also learning, you know, who to call.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, oh, this guy's an outstanding DP, you know, keep that. Like, so I'm like low key in my head, I'm assembling a crew, you know, for that one day when I might, you know, grow the balls to take responsibility for something, you know, to do something like that. And not just be the cool actor, you know, who's just, hey, I'm just here to do the job, man. Be cooler if you did, you know, and then piss off while they deal with the real pressure stuff, you know.
That's what we're doing it as well. And as like I said, you get so sick and tired of seeing all the found footage shit out there, all the cheap fucking bullshit that's out there, and you know, it's always such a slog trying to get your own stuff made and try to do something a little bit different. It's just I when I'm in the gym, that's where I watch the movies that we have to watch, and I spend way too much time watching. I'm subscribed to all the little horror, you know, subscription channels. I've watched so much crap, and it's so often I try to come across something that's really, really solid. So hopefully one day. But
I learn a lot from watching bad movies too. Like
you learn what not to do.
Them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes learning what to do, like learning what not to do, is just as important. You know, you learn from someone else's mistake.
Exactly.
Right.
So so in the future, what is there any particular goals you have, or people you want to work with, or a particular role that you might want to tackle, or anything you wanted to sink your teeth into, like kind of like thing, like what was it? Guillermo del Toro did his whole thing so he could get to Frankenstein, you know, and Peter Jackson wanted to do King Kong, you know, like that. What is Chaney Morrow kind of like? What's that one thing you want to sink your teeth into going in the future?
You know, I mean, it's like I guess this ain't really an answer, but it's, you know, I think a dream role, one that I think I could really take and kind of recreate, not necessarily recreate, but I think I'd make a badass Freddy Krueger. Like I really like that's pretty, you know, that's very unlikely. But if we're talking like, you know, like in a dream, like I'd love to do I'd love to be a new Freddy and put a new. I'd love to do a better job than Jackie Earl Haley was given, you know, credit for.
Right.
Essentially, because the people ripped him apart, and I see I mean, I understand why they didn't like it, but he wasn't bad. He just wasn't the Robert Englund. What were you expecting? You know, he's built different. He's a different cat. Right. And they made Freddy look different. You know, that wasn't the same monster. But I would love to do that, and beyond that, man, I just want to keep working and keep learning. You know, because you know, I learn something every time, and usually make a new friend or two. And it's, you know, it's not a bad way to earn money. I mean, it is a business first and foremost. Right. It's from a very young age, I thought, it's like, man, if I could make money, like acting, doing this stuff these guys do, like on TV, like play pretend and play pretend. You know, I embraced the art, like in college, the art of it. But yeah, I always know, I was like, that's probably got to be the best way to make money in this world, is to, like, who wouldn't want to do that?
To tell stories.
Yeah, you just get up there and entertain people all day. Like, what sounds better than that? You know, nothing. Nothing sounds better. Entertaining for a living, man. And, you know, there's a lot of pain, a lot of bad shit that goes, but that's the same with everyone at any job in their life. You know, it's the same. Every job kind of business, any business can, you know, have its ups and downs, you know, and there's just, for every up in this business, there's a few downs, you know, and I hope to keep my skin thick, you know.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, hope to keep my skin thick and avoid too many reviews.
Yeah, never read the comment. Never read the comments.
If they rip the movie apart or something, but they're funny and there's some genuinely funny stuff in there, I like it. You know, because at least then that's a real writer, right? when there's zero punctuation, run-on sentences, no spelled words, fuck off. Jeez Louise. Like, well, then don't watch it again. I cashed that check. What do I give a fuck? Don't watch it, asshole. Why would someone feel the need to, like, try to contact me to tell me that personally? Like, you think
Don't
I
read any of
made this movie? Do you think I
Don't read any of this shit on moviepoopshoot.com. We don't read
Yeah, sit there like Jaden. Who the fuck said that shit?
I'm gonna kill all these fucks.
He calls himself Magnolia fan. I think that's a fun dig, like, because Paul Thomas Anderson and Kevin Smith came up in the same indie era, right? And Anderson got all these accolades. Ooh, Hard 8, this guy's serious. And Kevin Smith does, a comedy like Mallrats, what they just think he's this screwball, right? So I think that's a jab when he said, who the fuck says it? He says, I don't know. He calls himself Magnolia fan and then keeps moving on. I think that's what it is. And I have no idea, but that feels like an inside joke that Smith, because he's a smart dude.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like a fun inside joke he would make, Of course, I could be wrong.
Oh, fucking hell. Amazing shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have been going for a good clip, and I know that you're super, super busy. And I want to thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us about your career and all things horror. It's been an absolute blast. So a huge thank you to you, Chaney.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And we're going to put the links down in there for everybody. Is there anything special? Because we're going to put the links to your IMDb and to where people can follow you and follow the progression of your career and any updates you may have as far as social media goes. Any projects you want to point people towards?
Yeah, right now at the moment we have Deadly Endings. It's almost at its goal on Indiegogo, an anthology film. It's got Felissa Rose, Hannah Fearman, Elsie Holt, Wes Robinson, a lot of my buddies involved. Daniel John Carney. It's written and directed by Richard Diesel. I feel like it's going to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to it. It's a brand new character. I've never done anything like it before. I'm looking forward to getting in that mindset for a little while. But check it out. It's called Deadly Endings on Indiegogo. A lot of cool perks. If that's your thing, check it out by all means. If not, right on.
Awesome. We will put the links to that down in the description. Once again, thank you again, Chaney. And of course, to all of you listeners out there, if you enjoyed this little interview that we did and with the interviews that we do with industry professionals, you can check this out early. You can get early access to it. If you check out our Patreon, patreon.com/weekinhorror, you can get these early or just wait for them to release on our YouTube channel or, of course, over on Spotify. So make sure you're following us and hit those bells for notifications. And, of course, we do this every single month. This has been Week in Horror Front Row with my special guest, Chaney Morrow. All the best of luck to you, bud. We cannot wait for the future projects to come out, what you're going to have, especially when you take that director seat one day. I know it's going to be amazing. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I appreciate that, Jay, man. Thank you so much for having me, bud.
Absolutely. And to all of you horror fans out there, we will see you next month. And as always, stay scared.